The earliest central authorities among Christian groups were the bishops. The bishops were the leaders of the community whose job was to administer the sacraments, mainly to run the communion or the Eucharist, and other kinds of religious questions that would come up among this new religious group. As Christianity spread, as the communities became larger, bishops needed assistants. Those assistants were sometimes called presbyters or deacons, but we often know them today as priests. So priests come to kind of assist the bishops in administering the sacraments. Priests themselves, because they've taken a sacramental order, as it's developed later in the Roman Catholic Church, are seen as connections to the holy. So priests get their authority, ultimately, from a kind of ordination, and therefore, through that ordination, through God kind of coming through them. Priests, bishops, and the entire clerical order of the Roman Catholic Church develop over time this prohibition of marriage and sexual activities. That wasn't always the case. While asceticism was commonly preferred, even from the time of Paul, it was not necessary in the Roman Catholic Church until the 11th century. In the East, though, that's not fully true. Priests can actually marry, if they're married before they take their order, before they take their ordination, right, they can maintain a married family life. In the Eastern Church, it's from the priest that bishops are selected. Bishops, though, have to be celibate. So the priest and bishop structure, right, in the West, the Roman Catholic Church, is celibate, and it's connected to God in an almost ontological way. The Pope was originally simply the Bishop of Rome, and the Rome was seen as the seat of the Apostle Peter. A Pope was first among equals. Over time, though, that authority has grown. So popes are elected, actually, by the College of Cardinals, who can go through multiple ballots. So it ends up being a somewhat politicized process, although it's one that in Roman Catholic theology is one that's inspired by the Holy Spirit. And thereby the Pope is connected even more so than the priests and the bishops to the will of God. Only in the 19th century did the doctrine arise, called ex cathedra, that a pope's pronouncements can be infallible, right? That they have to be taken as the doctrine of the full church. And that only occurs when a pope actually declares that he's speaking ex cathedra. But for the most part, right, popes' pronouncements are, of course, very weighty and they're very authoritative, but they're not seen as totally definitive, as coming with divine authority unless they actually declare that to be the case, which they very rarely do. Now, alongside of in the Roman Catholic Church, of the priest, bishop, cardinal, pope structure, we have monasticism. Monasticism, too, starts from a fairly early period. Monasticism often, in practice, doesn't mean people living alone. There's people going out into the wilderness and just, living as hermits, although you do have that. But they live in communal structures, and those communal structures are those communities of monks for men and nuns for women are kind of focused on different things. So the monastic communities arise within orders, most frequently, and those orders each have defining characteristics. So if you're a Jesuit, and you become a Jesuit within a monastery, your focus is somewhat different than if you're a Franciscan or belong to another kind of order. Monks and nuns have an interesting kind of authority because to the extent, especially that monks are ordained as priests, they have the authority of any other priest. Yet they also have a kind of social or communal authority, both monks and nuns. Right? And that people look at them having renounced sex and marriage, right? They look at them as having a kind of special character to them. And that power, in a sense, can challenge the normal parishes and the regular order of the Roman Catholic Church. That's why often through history you do see a kind of tension sometimes between the orders and the normal parish bishops and priests, and where the center of power lies among the people who are on the ground, actual practicing Catholics. Now, this idea that authority comes from God through the church as expressed through its clergy changed under Protestantism. So among many groups of Protestants, again, but not all, right, preachers have no divine kind of authority. Right? Preachers have their authority simply from their charisma, their ability to attract followers, and perhaps as a model of behavior. So preachers come and go, and in many Protestant groups, I'd say most Protestant groups, there is no hierarchy. So each church selects its own preacher or pastor or reverend or whatever you want to call it. Churches have different names for their leaders. And they take them and they dismiss them as they desire. Whereas the Catholic Church will kind of move people around, and ultimately it's the hierarchy, the authority that makes that decision.